Hello and welcome to the Three Mad Brothers podcast, season 1, episode 1. I am your host, Miko Me,
Axel.
And I'm Diaz.
and we are Three Mad Brothers. This show was sponsored by Fade Media. So today's episode, we just want to talk about our topic, which is called Escaping the Ghetto. Why do we choose that topic? So oftentimes you hear this term, I really don't like it, but it's very popular, right? You'll hear somebody say, oh, that's so ghetto. Or they'll say, stop acting ghetto. Or they'll be like, I don't like that. That's ghetto, right? So, but here's the thing. I'm from the ghetto. And you may be saying, why are you saying that? Because when people meet me, I share my experiences. I know some people when I was younger, they made fun of how I talk because I can talk real proper or I can use slang. People say that they call it code switching. But when my parents were married and me and my sister, our mother and father, we lived in a middle income neighborhood, right? So when they split up, basically divorced. My mother still was able to keep up the house. We still stayed in the same type of neighborhood. Very diverse neighborhood. There were, brown people, there were Caucasian people, there were some Hispanic and a few Asian people in the neighborhood. We didn't know about crime, right? If we heard a crime, it would be somebody knocked over garbage cans in the alley, or a couple kids might fight. Occasionally, some kids would push each other and the parents would, hey, break that up. That was how the neighborhood was. Sunny days, we had good times. We could stay out, sit on the porch till it was late. We were in and out of each other's homes. It was just a great neighborhood, in my opinion, right? You would not have called it the ghetto at all, though. So, I even had cousins and relatives who would say, man, you all live way out in the suburbs, even though we lived in the city. That's how it was. Well, when I turned 10 years old, I experienced culture shock because my mother had lost her job at the bank. At that point, we were on welfare, and we had to go and actually move to another side of town. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's where I was born. And there's a neighborhood called Metcalf Park. It's one of the poorest neighborhoods actually per capita in the United States. So without getting into all of that, we moved there, and I wasn't familiar with that. I had relatives who lived in neighborhoods like that, but I had never lived in a neighborhood like that. And I had spent time with my cousins and I would play with them, but I didn't live there. So when we moved there, I'll be honest, I cried the first day because first of all, I was leaving my friends. I was leaving my old school. I was leaving everything that was familiar to me for the first 10 years of my life. And when my mother took us to see this house before she signed the lease, we saw 3 different homes. I hated all of them, right? And she asked our opinion. She wanted to know what we thought. Like, hey, what do you think about this? And my sister and I both were like, nah, we don't like that one. She said, okay, let's look at the next one. That first one might have had like a cracked window, and it might have had a sheet up at the window for curtains and all that. We were like, nah, that was pretty bad. So then we went to the second one. Didn't like that one either. Whatever, however it looked. Got to the third one. We didn't like any of them. So she said, well, I got to choose one of them. I know you all don't like the 3 of them, but I got to choose something because we have to move. We got evicted. And maybe another episode, I can tell you why we got evicted. It was pretty traumatic why we got evicted. It involved guns and shooting and drugs and stuff like that. But for sake of time, I won't get into that. But it's needless to say, we were evicted. We didn't have a choice. We weren't moving because we wanted to. The landlord said, y'all got to go. You're out of here. You got 48 hours. Pack up your stuff. You're out. So we end up going to Metcalf Park. And I'm telling you, the ride there, man, tears coming down my eyes. I didn't want my family to see me, but tears came down my eyes because I just knew it wasn't going to be good. So we got there, and first day of my new school, man, one of my classmates, you talk like a white boy. The kids start laughing. I'm thinking to myself, how do I talk like a white boy when look at me? I'm dark brown, look like chocolate. I'm like, no, I told him, I said, no, you sound bad. I don't know if I called him ghetto or what I said, but all I know is he said, I'm gonna show you what that is at lunchtime, recess. Had my first real fight, right? At 10 years old in school. Before that, I had a little. Anyway, it was a welcome to the ghetto moment because that was the beginning of me really being introduced to another type of living, right? So the neighborhood I lived in, just being honest, there were street gangs in the neighborhood. For the first time, I'd seen cockroaches. We didn't have roaches. You might say you all had roaches in the neighborhood. They probably live underground, but none of our homes. I'm telling you, houses didn't have roaches, mice. I saw windows busted out, broke down cars in the alley. You name it. The tires, man. We saw broke down, raggedy tires in people's backyards, abandoned homes. People sold drugs on corners, stuff like that. That was culture shock to me. I did not see any of that, but I can tell you that for the next 5 years of my life, until I was in like 11th grade, that's the kind of neighborhoods we lived in, right? It is what it is. But I say all that just to say, I remember my sister and I, my siblings, period, because I have a lot of siblings. My siblings and I, some of my first cousins and I, we sat around at the table one day and we said, this is not how we want to live. We laughed about it, but we said, we want out of here, right? We know this is where our parents live, but when we grow up, we getting out of the hood. That was our whole mentality. And so the reason though we call this episode Escaping the Ghetto, it's not to insult anybody who lives in the inner city or the ghetto or poor neighborhood, right? Some people may actually want to live there, and that's fine, but we didn't want to. So we had to find out how to do it. It wasn't like we could just snap our fingers and we were going to move out of there, but we had to find a way to do it. It was our intention though, right? So how we did it, for us, it was education. It was graduate high school. I went off to the army. So I was in basic training the day I turned 18. My sister, she left home at 18 and moved down to Georgia. We were broadcasting out of Metro Atlanta, so this is where we live now. But my sister moved here to Georgia when she was 18. She never looked back. My sister she's been down here for 26 years. She's been to visit, but she would never move back there, right? I had another cousin who did a very, very similar thing. He finished high school. The one sat at the table with us. He finished high school. He went off to college. He's never looked back. He's visited, but he's never looked back. And then similar thing for other friends of mine who actually did that. We were like, hey, we're going to find a way when we turn 18. And so for me, that meant overlooking a lot of stuff, man. I mean, I got mugged twice. The first time they actually went in my pocket. Some guys in the neighborhoods, they were looking to buy some marijuana, some weed in the neighborhood, and they saw me coming. I was like 11 years old, and they were like, hey, little dude. Actually, I was about 10 or 11. They said, hey, little dude, come over here. And I'm thinking in my
the way you
mind,
escaped the ghettos by going to the army.
yeah, for me,
Right.
but it wasn't just the army. I was in the reserves, right?
Okay.
So I had basic training. I had my advanced training. That was 4 months. And then I was back at home, but I would go to the
Where's
army
back at home? Back in Milwaukee?
back in Milwaukee.
Okay.
So I would go once a
when you
month.
went to Milwaukee, where did you go? Did you go back to the hood or did you
No, so
move
by
somewhere
that
else?
time, actually, we were able to, my mother started working again, right? So we were off welfare and we were able to move. But I even the neighborhood we lived in at that time, it was another what they call working class neighborhood.
Right.
But there was a drug house, there was an apartment across the street from us, apartment complex, and there were 3 different drug houses within an apartment complex. And then up the street, half block away, there was another apartment like that. So there were like 6 different drug houses on our block. But if you see this neighborhood, you wouldn't have thought that. You would have thought, man, this can't be a drug neighborhood. But if you know the 80s and 90s, man, they were selling drugs all over cities, right? Nice looking neighborhoods, clean looking neighborhoods, bad looking neighborhoods. It didn't matter. They were selling them a lot of places.
Drugs are in every neighborhood. So in
Yeah.
Atlanta, if you live like in a rich place and you got really nice cars, you could be, a drug dealer, so
sure.
things have changed nowadays. I'd never lived in the ghetto, when I grew up in a military base, right? We could, in Miami, Florida, you could see the ghetto through the fences, right? It's just the way it was. Nowadays when we use the word, that's ghetto or something like that, it's just a way of saying, something it's not to degrade people. It's just saying, you know, if something's ghetto, something's not ghetto. You know, it's just like, you know, hey, I grew up in I live in a trailer park, right? You know, and we use it. It's a term like, oh, ass trailer trash or whatever. You know, it's not. I look back on it now, it's just a joke to me. It's not like I don't take it serious, but I know how people could take offense to something like that. You know, growing up on a military base was with my dad. My mom and dad separated in the 80s, right? You know, then, you know, going from comfortable living and going to live with my mom, you know, 4'11" Asian woman, you know, that's all she could afford at the time, right? And she raised, you know, 6 kids, right? So, you know, all her kids graduated. Imagine that, you know, and she worked 2-3 jobs as an Asian woman. So that's amazing. All her kids graduated, you know, so that, you know, we grew up in the hardest parts of the trailer parks, man.
Yeah. Well, I can say that, you know, for me, the term ghetto, the reason why I have a problem with it is because I know folk, probably even the two of you are, if somebody from another ethnicity uses the word, say they're wealthy, or you know they have not experienced poverty, right? But they will. I was reading some reviews today about a school. It's actually like a college prep middle school back in Milwaukee. But some of the reviews, they were calling this school ghetto. They were like, oh, we have a lot of ghetto, because they used to have an entrance exam was required to get into this school, right? The year that the school board said, we're going to get rid of the admissions test now, you just complete an application, that was because some folks protested. They said, no, I want my baby to go to this school. I want my baby to have the same opportunity as these other kids, right? And enough parents said that. And so they got rid of that, which I don't agree with it, but that's just my little 2 cents.
Wow.
But when they did that, it allowed the standards did get lowered, right? So, but it was kids that they started to have fights in the school. I was a substitute teacher in the school district, so I worked at the school a few times. And I can tell you, when I worked there, they still had that admissions-based testing in order to get in. And you didn't see the stuff that they were describing. Fights? No, absolutely not. There were no fights. You get put out of the school for fighting one time. One fight, they put you out. Why? Because this was a magnet school. This is a prep school, a college prep middle school. But now I'm reading about fights. I'm reading about when they say ghetto behavior, I can read between the lines. I know what they mean. They mean basically what we will call low class, right? Stuff like,
I mean, that's what it means, you know.
Right. But why
behavior.
don't people just say low class? Because I could tell you, I know some.
You know,
people
with semantics, this is the thing. With semantics, you ain't gonna please anybody. You know what I'm saying?
But
you won't please everybody because people, you know, nowadays it's all sensitive, right?
Yeah.
I need to take the most sensitive training in the world, because I'm just gonna say it is what it is. If something is there's rich black people that just still say, oh, that's ghetto, right? And they know if it's something is ghetto or not, right? You know,
what is the word associated with? I'm gonna tell you, my
associated with some bad stuff, you know, like
it's associated mostly with black folk. Period.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say that because
but if you just like, it's like The Rock saying, you piece of trailer park trash, right?
I haven't
know
heard
what
The
that
Rock
means. This is
I haven't heard The Rock
white
say
people.
that though.
Yeah,
I haven't heard The Rock use
you
that.
piece of trailer park trash. Yeah, he's
so Diaz. Have you heard?
I know Rock? He's from the U, baby. That's where I'm from, right?
You talk about Rock as in wrestling, acting.
Yes,
right. Dwayne Johnson.
He could say anything when you were WWE. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean,
that's we true. Know maybe that's not. We know that trailer park ain't black people.
Well, you
right?
know.
We know trailer park. If you say someone from the trailer park, you ain't gonna think of someone black.
But here's my question.
Or brown, whatever you want to call it.
Do we know where the word originated from?
I do.
Where did it originate from?
So in the United States, the word ghetto actually originated in the 1800s. It goes back further when you look at the origin of the word, because it comes from a different language. But the English version of it was associated with an ethnic group of people that lived in one section of a city, right? For example, in the United States, you had, let's say, the Irish ghetto. So large cities like New York, and Diaz, you being from New York, you can relate to this. Large cities like New York, they definitely had them. They had a section of, say, Queens, right, that Italian people would live in. Now may look different, but in the 1868, 1890, it would be nothing but Italian people, and they were lower income, right? And they would call that the Italian ghetto, or they would have a Jewish ghetto.
Here's the thing though. The word ghetto started in Italy.
Correct. Right.
That's
So
where it started in
an
Italy.
Italian.
It had nothing to do with black or brown people. You know
But
what I mean?
what income level were those people in the
Oh yeah,
Italian
yeah. Oh,
ghettos?
it was
Poor,
ghetto. Yeah, yeah,
like
they were
poor.
ghetto.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
poor. It was associated with poverty, right?
Right, right.
So in the US, when I hear it, now sometimes it depends on, see, the problem I have with it initially, like I told my story, it wasn't that I'm upset. I didn't tell the story because I'm upset with people using the word. I shared some of my story. For the second time, I didn't share all of it, but I shared some of my story because for me, growing up in a neighborhood like that, it wasn't just a word. I mean, literally, I didn't think I was gonna live to be 21, man. I was losing friends.
Yeah.
You know, I was losing friends to
Right.
I had friends that were getting stabbed
Yeah.
and getting shot. And
Yeah.
I'm going to funerals, man, of my peers, man. Before I'm 14, going to funerals, man. I'm 13 going to funerals, 15 going to funerals of my neighbors and my friends, man. Right. I saw somebody stabbed with a stab wound, blood gushing, man. They came out of a house party next door. First time I ever saw something like this, right, at 11 or 12. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, my buddy Elliot lived next door, and we were all hanging out in the front, and his older siblings having a house party. Okay, cool. They having a house party doing their thing. The door bust open, man. They rushing this guy to the car. Hurry up with him. They got this like a shirt over this guy's stomach, man. Blood just gushing out. We were like, oh my goodness, what happened? They're like, he got stabbed in the party. He got stabbed in the party. And that was traumatic. You know what I'm saying? But this is the neighborhood that I was living in. So I'm saying that just to say other stuff happened, man. When you get mugged, I don't know if either of you all have ever been mugged, but I've been mugged twice. Like I said, the first time, you know, they went in my pockets, only had food stamps because that's what we were using, right? I didn't have any money, and they didn't want that, so they jokingly kind of said, "Oh, give him that back. He don't have any money." They gave him back to me, and they went on their way. Second time, my cousin and I were walking home from the restaurant. These three dudes knocked me down. They came up with some cockamamie story about how they saw me talking about their mama and all that. That was just a decoy to walk me to the back of the building where people couldn't see me from the street. They knocked me down, pulled the shoes off my feet, got on their bikes and rode off, right? I was 12 years old, man. It happened so fast. I didn't even have time to react. They pulled out a knife though. And that's the reason why I didn't even attempt to fight these dudes, because they had a knife. I didn't. They probably would have stabbed me over some shoes. Because as we remember growing up in the city in the 80s and 90s, what were they doing? Stealing jackets and shoes, right? But the crazy part is, I didn't even have on Jordans. I had on regular Nike. They weren't even Air Nikes, man. They were $35 Nikes, right? And in my mind, at the next day, I'm thinking, oh, they just robbed me for my plain Nikes. You know, like I could see if they was Jordans, man. They were just regular Nikes.
That's the mentality, you know. That's just,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
How
In
did
that type of
you
neighborhood.
escape the ghetto?
So man, my mind was so focused. I had an adult told me, and a few adults, but one in particular, I believe it was in school, a teacher or a mentor said, you know, you're gonna have to ignore some stuff. I would tell them stuff like this that was happening to me, and I would tell them about bullies in the neighborhood, people who will want to pick on, I call them wolves. They want to prey on those because I'm shorter than average, right? I'm 5'8". But when I was a kid, man, I was always one of the shortest people in class, shortest people in the neighborhood. So most people were taller and bigger than me, and they wanted to pick on me, and they would say things to antagonize me, right? Crack jokes and talk about I told you, man, I grew up very bad. We were on welfare, man, at one time.
But that's
I
how
lived
you
in
grew
hold
up
on, Harvey. I lived in a drug house, right? So people knew that, and they would poke fun of my mom, because my mom, at one time, my mother battled with drug addiction. So they would poke fun of my mom. They poke fun at my clothes. And if I spoke up for myself and cracked jokes back at them, they would literally want to fight me. So this teacher told me, said, sometimes you're going to have to ignore what people are saying so that you don't end up in a fight with these folk. You don't end up in jail. Because we would talk about my classmates and my neighbors who were actually going to jail. They were getting killed. They were like, why did that happen? And we would talk about it. A lot of it was because of fights that escalated. They turned into feuds, right? These feuds led to gangs getting involved and people lost their lives. I said no. And so what stuck in my mind is one person told me, they says, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Keep that in your mind so that because it's not easy to be humble when you 14, right? Or 15, when somebody calling you punks and calling you names and saying this, that, or the other, trying to pull you in and pull you down. I had to look past that. And I kept thinking to myself, you know what? When I turn 18, I'm out of here. When I finish high school, I'm out. So even though I want to say something back to these dudes, I'm going to ignore them because it was my goal to get out of there, man. And that
Yeah.
wasn't
So
against.
so from that time you went to the army, right?
Mhm.
That was your way out of the ghetto.
Not really, because like I said,
So you
I
went back
ended
to
up,
the ghetto after you went to the army.
no, before. So when I enlisted in the military, we were living back in this working class neighborhood. So we literally moved out because my mother got a job, right? She got a job, started working again, and could afford to move to a better neighborhood. But me personally, that was my mother's house. That wasn't my house, right? So my mother could have easily said, okay, you 18 now. Hey, it's time for you to get your own. Where would I go at 18?
Yeah, but the thing is, when you moved with your mom, now you guys are not in the ghetto anymore.
Sure.
Okay.
But that again is
So-
her house. not
It's the same
mine.
thing, but you still live
Yeah,
on
but
it.
you-
So that,
yeah, you
that's
got-
still your house.
But I think-
like my kids moved with me from
Yeah. They not.
Florida to here, right?
Right,
And
right,
we're in the
yeah.
house. We went from
No, I
apartment
get
to
that.
house.
But I
It's
guess
our
what I'm
house.
saying to you though, what I'm getting at, Axel, is that the reality is that even in my hardest time, so I have not shared this, I don't think with either of you all. I was homeless, man, in my adult years. I'm talking about 2011. I was homeless, man, right? I had a choice, either sleep in my car or move back to Milwaukee, stay with my cousin on his couch, because that's just where I was. I didn't have a residence, man. So I made the choice to go and sleep on my cousin's couch. But for a short time, I didn't have a place to live. So I'm saying all that just to say I could have easily, I thought about what was I going to do.
Mhm.
My prideful mind says, I'm not asking anybody to help me. I'd rather go either stay in a shelter or sleep in my car. But something, I don't know if it was the spirit of God or something said, no, man, you got to have some humility and ask people for help, right? Even though I didn't want to. You talking about somebody with halfway done with a master's degree, bachelor's degree, all that stuff in place, but I still had to make some choices quickly, or that I would have been back in what you call the ghetto, right?
Right.
So I'm saying all that
now
just to
we
say,
know how you got out of the ghetto. Because
well, and I survived it.
is well, we changed it escaping the ghetto because it was originally surviving the ghetto, right?
Well, it's
So
both
now-
though.
now-
It was surviving and escaping for me. It
Okay.
was.
So now you escaped. Okay. So
Yeah.
that was your way of escaping. Now, Antonio or Diaz, did you ever grow up in the ghetto?
Yes, I grew up in Queens, New York. Ravenswood projects. Ravenswood, stand up. Come on, yeah. But
Talking like an herb now. You're talking like an herb. Nah.
so I grew up in the projects of Ravenswood, Queens, which was 3 blocks away from Queensbridge, where we all went to school together, which that was. So we're in Ravenswood was if you can imagine, the upper echelons of projects. That was Ravenswood. Then you had Queensbridge, which was, if you want to die today, go there. Like,
Wow.
that's 3 blocks away. We all went to the same school. So it was tough. Just because, me coming from Ravenswood, I grew up in a all women household, single mom, older sister, younger sister. And so I grew up very sheltered, like I'm just watching Transformers, staying at home, not really, going out, interacting with other kids, and then, go to, let's say, elementary school. And I got, half the class from Queensbridge projects, and man, we are all kids. And I mean, I'm talking about, they was living rough. Like, you just knew it was, my mother used to tell me, don't go over there. Don't go to that project. And so, when in a classroom, for me, I stood out, number one, I was, like, I weighed like 60 pounds, right? And I was just sheltered. And so, they just would pick on me. They would chase me home. They would, and they would, tell jokes about my mother at the lunchroom table. And I just really, it was tough, because then I would go home. I wouldn't talk to my mother about this, because I'm like, So what I said to myself was, you know, you gotta figure something out because, you know, they coming at you, every day. And so I came up with this brilliant idea of, you know, staying up on Saturday. I'm gonna sneak and stay up on a Saturday night and I'm gonna watch Saturday Night Live. And at the time, right, this was when Eddie Murphy was on there. And at the end of Saturday Night Live, they would have like a 2 or 3 minute skit where one of the actors would, you know, say mama jokes with Eddie. They would battle. And so I came up with this. So what I would do is I will stay up and wait for the segment to come on and I would write the jokes down. So I would write the jokes down. I would practice them. Monday morning, I'm coming in the classroom. I'm ready. And I would look for, I would try to pick a fight with somebody, right? And I hit them with, you know, they'll say, you know, I'll be like, man, that's why your mother fat, just to get it going. They'll say something. And it was this one joke that he said. He was like, your mother's so black that when she went to school, the teacher marked her absent. And when I said that in class, of course I did it with the bully of the class. And the whole class was like, oh, yo, you know your mom's black. And so long story short, you know, at the end of the class, you know, he gave it to me, you know, 3 o'clock, you know, 3 o'clock. But just growing up in that atmosphere, you know, kind of like what you were saying, Deshaun, I knew there were certain things I had to ignore. Sometimes I knew in the situations, you know, even though I didn't want to, I would have to be real. I had to be the punk, right? Because I knew if I challenged it, if I went down that road, I have to see it all the way through. Mm-hmm. And so I just made a decision at an early age. I didn't want to live like that, you know? And so I got chased home a lot of times. Sometimes they caught me. you know, you know, but I mean, really, it just was. I'm not going to go down that road because I see what it looks like. You know, even though I'm not at home with them, you know, I see them in class. I see that that's a different living than how I live, and so I just didn't want to challenge that, and that was my first step to escaping the ghetto. Right. Just, you know, knowing I don't want to go down a road that's going to keep me here. Mm-hmm. And so if I got, you know, play the punk, I'm going to play it all day. Because I know what it leads to. And so that was my thing, you know, growing up in Queens.
Mm-hmm. So you both had to somehow adapt to the situations that you were in, but to keep your mental state of mind and stay away from all the riffraff as best as you could.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I'm gonna interject real quick and say, thinking back as I'm listening to Diaz, while I was in the hood, right, in Metcalf Park and other places, for me, my escape was the library. Now, I played with my friends. Don't get me wrong, man. It wasn't like it was always danger every day, people shooting at us every day. No, but when things got rough, right, a little rough, my place was the library, man. I went to hang out in the library because I love books. I love reading, and my mind could escape. So what I read about, I would imagine, even if I never been there or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But that helped me. So like I said before, I went off to college. I got an early discharge from the military, and then I went off to the university, man. That, you know, I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody, and I'm not saying that was a golden ticket. But I will share that for those who may be listening or watching, you may be asking yourself, well, what about me? I don't like where I live. How am I going to get out? You know, and maybe Axel, you can share that with some of the listeners.
But you know, growing in Miami, you know, it's like there's projects, there's ghettos, but people were always people. You know what I mean? We didn't have, back in my days, there was really no gang problem. You know, it wasn't about gangs, right? You know, you had your boys, you held your own, things like that, right? Because when you lived on a military base, you still had to go off the base, right? So you still had to know how to interact with people. But I think as young kids, we just didn't look at it that way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know, it was just life as usual. You know, you go to school, you know, there's gonna be some rough people there, you know, it was, you know, it was just all around us. And we took people for people, you know. I think when you get older and use terms like, you know, trailer park trash or ghetto, things like that, we know those are just terms that are used to describe either bad characters, bad way of living, or how hard someone lived, or how you're living, right? You're living ghetto, man, you know, just change your ways or whatever, right?
Mhm.
You know, it's you know, you know you're not supposed to say it in certain groups, but you can say it in your house or around your friends or family members, but you don't say it like if you're on a train, man, you acting, you know, you know, because you might something might happen to you, right? So
Right.
you know, it's like, you know, certain people can't say the N-word, right? You
Yeah,
know,
but they do
yeah.
a lot.
I mean,
I'm just saying they
Not
do.
because the thing is, if you playing in your music, if you black and you playing in your music, of course, he comes with a territory. Somebody just sing the lyrics, right? That's just the way it is, right? So if you don't want people to say it, then don't say it, right?
But I taught public schools, right? In the
Right.
city of Milwaukee. I taught the public school system.
Yeah.
I heard white kids call each other that in the school. I taught in high school.
Yeah, because it means homie. It means homie.
I heard black kids, quote unquote brown kids, call white kids that, and I heard white kids call brown kids that, and they didn't have a problem. They were friends. And
Because
I scratched my head.
that means homeboy, right?
But it doesn't. That's the thing. It was changed. People have accepted that.
But it's
but
okay. It's like the word bad. The word bad, who changed it, right? The word bad, if you look in the dictionary, means something not good. But when Michael Jackson or LBJ says it, right? What does it mean? Y'all bad.
Yeah, but people didn't take the word bad and hang them from a tree with that. They didn't call them bad. It's like verbally spitting on them.
The same thing was Christian. The same thing with the word Christian, right?
Sure, I get that.
See,
but
nowadays,
maybe not.
It doesn't mean what it actually meant when it was actually used, right? So we know things. This generation doesn't understand all that, and they're never going to understand that.
Okay, well, I'm gonna give you a great example. If I go to work, right, or let's just say a woman goes to work, she has her hair dyed blue with braids, and somebody says under their breath, and she overhears them, "Oh, her hair, that's a ghetto hairstyle." Two white women say that, and it's just as brown as me. It's her hair, but she hears somebody say, "Oh, she has blue braids at work. That's so ghetto." Is she supposed to laugh at that? Oh, yeah, you're right.
Okay, but check this out. You can say, okay, hey, you know what? Look at that lady, that white woman. She wearing jeans up to past her belly button. We call that mama jeans, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't
right?
have the same
Am
effect.
I right? See, so
no, it doesn't have the same effect, man.
It does.
It does. I mean, let's keep it real,
right?
No,
like you wear mama jeans. Or okay, if a white girl act crazy, we gonna call her what?
Don't matter.
Karen, right?
No, but it don't matter.
You know what I'm saying? It's still not good either way. It's still not good, right?
Yeah, but so here's the thing about it being weaponized, right? It's weaponized when that, for example, someone changes the policy now at work where a woman cannot wear braids or have her hair dyed. And I'm not talking about she's an attorney or something like that. I'm talking about they change policies because a brown sister will wear her hair a certain way, right? Or a brown brother will wear a certain type of clothing, and they consider that ghetto. But really, what they're saying is it's unprofessional. Why not just say that? Why not just say unprofessional? Because what happens is when people don't know this, growing up, I work with a lot of children, man. Over the last 29, almost 30 years, I've been working with children on and off, right? And children get impacted by. I have had these conversations with children in tears, man, telling me how people have other people, right? People of authority, teachers, mentors, young adults who start working have told me how people on their job, supervisors and managers have told them things look ghetto. Why don't wear those jeans anymore? They look ghetto. Don't wear your hair like that, pin it up. It looks ghetto. And a lot of comments like that. That hurts, man, because they're thinking to themselves, you're not from my neighborhood. Like you said about work, some people, their friend can say that, it probably won't bother
The
them.
thing
They'll
is,
laugh at it.
but this,
But
but
hold on,
there's,
but somebody in
but
authority.
there's truth to that. There's
What's the truth
truth.
about it?
Okay,
What's
the truth
about it?
is
A blue
the truth is-
hairstyle. What makes that? What
Okay,
makes
watch,
that
watch,
ghetto?
watch. Okay, watch. Let me explain. There's truth to that. Ouch, the truth hurts, but there's truth. And what I mean by truth, if it's not, that's like someone sagging their pants. Would you go to work like that?
But
Would you go to
that
work?
has nothing to do with it
Well,
being
no,
ghetto.
let me
What makes that ghetto?
Okay, okay.
I don't do
Is
that
it,
at all.
is it
I wouldn't wear my
professional or
pants
is
like
it
that
ghetto
anywhere.
to wear your pants down?
It's bummy. It's sloppy.
Exactly, but
it has nothing to do with the ghetto. Not
Okay.
at all.
okay,
A
if you go
hairstyle
to
has
Two
nothing
Live
to do
Crew's,
with the
one of
ghetto.
Two Live Crew's first album, right? Back in the 80s, the brother Marquise had his pants sagging down to his knees, right? So that was the style way back in the 80s, and it's still even worse today, right? Because now you
Mhm.
got skinny jeans with your pants sagging, right? That's like,
Mhm.
bruh, no one wants to see your drawers, right? We grew up on the military base, but outside of the military base in Miami, right? People used to sag their pants back in the 80s, and people doing it now, right? That just tells you my age, right? So the thing is, if you don't want that stigmatism, you're going to change your persona, change your environment. You're going to wear a suit and tie. You're going to wear your pants properly, right? Then you won't be stigmatized with that word ghetto, right? Now you're professional. Now you're showing and being different. If you look at the Desperate Housewives of, Atlanta, and they act crazy, they're acting ghetto, they call each other that. They're going to say, hey, you acting ghetto, right? That's just describing how they're acting, right? If you don't want to be described that way, you're going to change the way you act. You're going to change your appearance and things like that and be more professional. So there is
I
truth
think it says, actually, it says more to the people who are using the word and calling folk that than the people they're talking about. Why? Because who tells? No, let me finish. Who gives you the right to judge and deem somebody else a certain way? You're saying that to demean them.
But you know what?
Because you're not. You hold on. Let me finish.
Brown people
am I right?
do that
Am I wrong?
too. Brown people
No,
do
you're
that
not
too.
It's not a term. It's not a term, as we say, of endearment. It's not something people are saying to uplift somebody. They're not giving them a comment. They're insulting them. Right or wrong? Can we all agree? Hold on. Can we all agree?
Karen is using the word Karen for a white woman as angry.
I'm not talking about that word. This episode is not about that word. This episode
But
is not about surviving Karenism.
I am making a
I
correlation.
don't care about that right
I'm making
now.
a correlation. I'm just trying to make it even.
Well,
I'm playing the advocate.
But I was asking you to answer the question.
It is, but here's the thing. It's a word, right? So it has a negative connotation, right? But if not, right? But two friends can joke, and,
Right.
Right? You know what I mean? But I think the key of the word ghetto is it's speaking to a certain mentality.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like a can't get right.
Right.
Like they ain't making it. You know what I mean?
But you said yourself, Diaz, in the beginning, it's a word that came from Italy used to describe a certain section of town, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So if that's how it's used, right? I don't think we would have as much of an issue when it's used to describe someone's hair or someone's style of dress or the way someone's, even their dialect. And that's all I'm saying. I mean, I think we're not straying, but to kind of bring us back up as we wrap up. Now, for second time, as we wrap up, I'll just leave it at this. We probably could have a whole episode on the term ghetto, right? We could do that. Maybe we get into that. But I think it's interesting. But for the sake of this particular episode, I just want to leave the audience with something with this. So for me, again, it was a place. It wasn't an action. It wasn't a behavior. It wasn't hair. It was a place for me that it was a lot of trauma. It was a place that I wanted to move out. Why? It wasn't about necessarily the neighborhood. It was what was going on in the neighborhood, right? And sure, I've heard, like Axel said, many people have said, well, these things happen all over, not outside, brother. You don't go to Buckhead and see people standing on the corner selling drugs. You don't go to Alpharetta and see mice and rats running down the street, right? You don't go to Roswell and hear of of drive-by shootings or people getting mugged, and that too often, right? So the neighborhood, like he talked about, Queens, and I talked about Metcalf Park. It was a place for me that was just, it wasn't a good place that I wanted to be. So I wanted to get out of there as soon as I could, like tomorrow or like yesterday, I should say. So I'm sharing with the audience, if you are in a situation like that, I'm saying to you, you can. People are going to tell you a lot, right? They'll tell you that in your own neighborhood, they'll poke fun maybe at the way you dress, the way you talk. Be who you want to be. Like the way I'm talking now, this is the way I want to talk. I'm not trying to be proper. I'm not trying to be anything. This is the way I talk. And these two guys are my friends. These are my friends and my brothers, so they know me well. And they know I'll use slang if I need to, or I'll use correct English. It's really my choice. But either way, I'm living and being the person that I want to be. So I encourage you that if you're in a situation, you're in a bad neighborhood, you're in a quote unquote ghetto, if you want to, find a way. And we'll, this is our practice episode, but we will put our number out there, our email address, Fade Inc. email at Gmail. That's FADEINC email at gmail.com. If you want to send us feedback or dialogue, you even want to ask questions with us or ask questions from us. And we would love to have that interaction, because I would love to inspire somebody to get out of that type of situation or to survive until you can. So that's my last piece. I'll be quiet.
Okay. So, going back to what Diaz talked about, the ghetto nowadays is a mental state of mind, right? And that's all it is, right? If you want to change your outlook, or you want people to change the way they see you, you change your reputation by how? Being different than what you were before. If you don't want to be labeled as ghetto and things like that, right? You're going to change the way you act, the way you talk, the way you dress. If you dress a certain way, you're going to be called a certain way, right? You know what a rapper looks like. You know what a heavy metal artist looks like, right? Heavy metal artists back in the day had long hair, right? We know we could attribute to that genre people. Rappers, or people in the hood might have a gold grill or something like that. I grew up in Miami. That was the thing down there, right?
Yeah.
Still is, right? But those associations are with stereotypically certain groups of people, right? Then you got other people in between, right? So if you wear a gold teeth, that's going to be associated with people that grew up in that environment, right? If you had dreads, most likely you may have had, Jamaican roots or whatever, right? Now it's a fashion that anybody could wear of, the ethnicity or whatever, right? It's just, if you want to be seen as something different, right? And not get hurt by the words of, that's ghetto or that's trailer, because I hear that too, right? You would just change the way you act and the way you carry yourself and things like that, and that's all it is nowadays. I don't think people really know the deep roots of a lot of words, right? And
Right.
like, when you open the Bible,
Yeah.
certain things in the Bible were written for people at that time, right?
Right.
But we can use it to, associate with us in this time and kind of like, okay, hey, it worked for them this way, and this is what they were really talking about. But as we associate with now, we're associating with our culture, our way of life nowadays, and how to live righteously and sin free. So it's just different, right? And sometimes for us old school people, we can take it even more seriously because we understand the history of it. Someone nowadays ain't gonna understand the history. Like our kids ain't gonna understand the history. They're not going to understand the history of the N-word or stuff like that. They're just going to hear a rap song and probably vibe to that rap song and kind of not say the word, but not know the history of it, right?
Right.
And that's where I'm coming from, right? Because they're just not going to understand, but it's just a way of thinking, a state of mind.
Yeah.
If you want to be labeled as that, you'll act like that. But if you don't want to be labeled as that, and you want to be, be labeled as something different, that's not going to get under your skin, then you'll change your ways.
Yeah. I agree with that, man. I think that's realistic, and just real. If you want to be looked at different, you gotta You know, you got to walk a different walk, but it goes back to, mentality though. You got to want it, right?
Exactly.
It's got to be important to you,
Yeah.
right? That if somebody's looking at you as ghetto, right, it's got to be important that you don't want to be, you know what I mean? Because if your mentality is, yup, we, we got
Right.
some problems, right? So it's just it's got to start with you wanting better, you wanting more. I think things can get, you can build on that, right? When you know, okay, I'm going to avoid this. I'm not going to act ghetto. I don't want to be associated with that. You
Right.
gotta, that's where it starts, and you can kind of layer from there as time goes. But you gotta want to, not have this the mentality. We're not talking about a place. We're just talking about, the mentality
A
of
state of mind or a state of
the state of mind.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, even though I don't agree with you two on this, for sake of time, we're gonna move on to our next segment. We'll pick
Man,
it
I
up
wish I
again,
had
'cause-
that one thing where I could just.
Well,
Ooh,
I
ooh,
You
think
just
it-
missed
no,
the whole point. I think
No,
you
on a
missed the whole
serious
point, Nico.
note, because
Yeah.
we are running out of time.
Yeah.
We do want to
Okay.
respect time. Our next segment is called "Is This for Real?" So our segment is this for real? What we do is we look at pictures or videos, or we listen to audio of things that we shake our head, scratch our head, and say, "Is this for real?" The outlandish, foolish, or silly things that we see. So in this particular episode, we're going to look at a picture, and I want you to ask yourself, "Is this for real?" So I was out shopping and I happened to see this. And I don't know if you all can see it, but it is a game. It is called Twerk Pong. That's right, folks. Twerk Pong. So the game is basically they take ping pong balls and
Mhm.
they put them in these boxes. You can see this
Right,
one here on the
right.
left. And
I like the fact there's a
well, hold on. Let me finish
black
my
guy and a white
introduction.
girl, you know.
Let me finish my introduction, right? So they
You
take
gotta
boxes.
show you how it's done. You gotta
Yeah,
have
they take
the
these
brother show you
boxes.
how it's done.
They strap them.
Oh, brother shouldn't be doing that in the first place.
Hold on. You being rude right now. And you strap
Oh,
it
that's
around.
cool.
You strap it around your waist, and then it says,
Yeah.
"Shake the balls out." Whoever empties their box out first wins the game. But they're supposed to shake it by twerking. Okay. So you may be asking yourself, "What's the big deal? What are you getting at? Is this real?" Because I didn't believe it. I thought it was somebody playing a joke. I thought somebody put this up on the shelf, right? And they were going to say, "Ha ha ha, we got you." But this actually is for real. You can see it has a price tag on it. Let me zoom in.
Yeah,
I
Marshall.
think you
At Marshall,
you need to-
$6.99.
$6.99, right?
Why I gotta
Oh.
be $6.99?
Now,
$6.99, $6.99.
Diaz, Axel, before I chime
$6.99.
in, what do you all have to say about it? What do you think?
What a twerk pong. That's brothers shouldn't be doing that.
I want to know where it's located so I can get me a couple of no. I mean, Miko, when you shared this picture with me, man, I lost my mind, because I'm like, ping pong is the last sacred game, that nobody has messed with, because it's too nerdy, right? And then I saw this and I'm like, it's just, I mean, here's my thing, and not to, this is a whole nother segment, but it's just about, it's easier, or no, it's cooler for a young lady to be a stripper than it is to be a doctor. It is cooler to be a
For
stripper.
some folks, yeah.
You know what I mean? Listen, from the world, right? Like from what you're being fed.
Yeah, they're making more TV shows about that mess than they are.
I mean, but and we know this, guys, right? Because when we was growing up, right, and we listened to what was new, which was the rap, right? We had Queen Latifah, we had MC Light,
Moni Love,
Only Love.
See, but
You
I
get what I'm
Yo
saying?
Yo,
I grew up in Miami, so we had the
Roxanne Shante.
You see, when you in New York, see,
Oh, and
your
hold on for a
music was
moment,
different.
Axel. I'm gonna mute Axel. And by the way, Roxanne Shante grew up a few blocks away from where Antonio lives, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, but I say
saw
all
the
that.
movie. I saw the movie. Stop muting me, man.
No, because Diaz was speaking, bro.
No, I was
Being
speaking. You cut me
rude.
off. You muted me, and then
I'm gonna put you in
No,
mute
because the
time out.
thing
You
is,
keep
you
on
can put
going.
whatever. So this is the thing, you know, when you guys have some righteous music, right? In Miami, it was all different. Hence the word KC's and Sunshine Band. When he was produced by someone in Miami, and they dude said, nah, bro, you got to put some Shake Your Booty in there. What did he do? Shake Your Booty, because that was Miami thing, right?
Okay, I got you.
So in your days in New York, y'all listened to some good rap. Two Live Crew had good rap in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Their song was Revelation, which, you know, they said Jesus Christ in the music, right?
Mm.
They got with Luke, they said drop all that and drop that dude that was saying all that. And they brought another rapper in, and then they started making all this crazy stuff that they played on the radio. They were playing the Two Live Crew stuff on the radio.
On the radio, live.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
So Diaz, now you were saying though that
well, I'm just doing a comparison, right? From compared to today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you hear, I'm not going to name the artist because we
don't want to promote that.
Yeah, we get some lawyers knocking on our door and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know a female artist, right, that when she has a song, she's not talking about something that she's doing something sexual, or how you better come with money, or you know what I mean? So again, it's just, you know, when I see that game, I'm in my mind, I'm like, as a parent, you know, I gotta understand they coming for my kids. They coming for
that's my problem. Yeah, I'll wait till you're done, but that's my main problem.
That's you know what I'm saying. So that's when I see that thing, you know what I mean, I'm like, man,
it's targeted at kids.
Nothing sacred, you know. So that's my spiel.
I go from in the 80s, they were twerking in Miami like that anyways.
Right.
You know, that's just how the music was down there.
Right.
They were twerking, and it's just popular nowadays, right?
Right.
Back in the day, they were doing it already.
Right. That's
you know,
what
you go to Key Biscayne or Biscayne Bay, right? They had, you know, on the beach, you know, women doing that, you know, it was just bad all the way around, right? But that's what we grew up to. Your music in New York and everywhere else was
they wasn't doing that.
Right.
Well, so Miami, you said so actually you said the key word though, right? You said women. So here is my problem, and the reason I said, is it for real? We know it really is real. We just saw the picture, right? But the problem is there was a small little thing. I don't know if you all saw this, right? It's something that, right, for what? What is choking hazard for what?
It said choking hazard down below. I was gonna emphasize.
No,
let's look at it.
It said choking hazard, like it's gonna make me choke because I'm gonna be crying.
Not for children under what age? 3. No, not for anybody under 18.
18.
This is my take. This is my take on it. You might not agree.
But most the thing is, this
won't agree. Hold on.
Let me. Parent, if you're the parent,
Axel. My wife and I talked about this. I shared this with her and one of my sisters-in-law, right? And what we both agreed is that for adults, especially married folk, we're married. If they wanted to play that game, knock yourself out. It's our opinion. Everybody, they're free to buy the game. It's not illegal to buy it. We're just sharing our thoughts on it, right? So my thoughts on it is, first of all, like you said, twerking has a sexual connotation. That's not something that people do. Like I wouldn't expect to go to a mosque or a temple or a church building and see folk in there twerking. I wouldn't expect to see that, right? But I would expect to see that in a nightclub or on a street corner, right? Or adult entertainment, because it's sexual connotation, right? And you normally hear women doing it for men, or maybe in this world, even for women, right? So my point is, that's adult. It's adult. It's adult entertainment.
Right.
So when you say not for children under 3, so are you saying it's for children 4 and up?
Yes.
We all have daughters. I don't want my daughter twerking.
At
Right.
4.
Right. At 4, I don't want my
My
daughter
daughter
twerking.
period.
I don't want, right. But
But-
exactly. I agree. But I'm saying that's the problem I have with it, that for Marshalls, shame on you, Marshalls. This is a store that a child can come in there and say, "Ooh, mommy, I want this." If mama don't know, because some people, like you talked about growing up sheltered, dear, some people are naive to this stuff. You might say, no, everybody knows the twerking. No, some people don't. So some person who says very strict, very religious, they don't understand what that means. And their little kid says, "Mommy, can you buy this for me?" They just see a game, right? They don't mean no harm. They buy it for their little daughter
Mhm.
or little son, because you saw a man on there too, right? And they go
Mhm.
home and they start playing it, but then they say, I'm interested in it. What does that mean? This kid says that. They go on any of the social media today, YouTube, TikTok. They see twerking. They said they really learn what it is. And now guess what? We got 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds twerking, playing the game. And what I look at is it's demonic. It's demonic because the evil forces behind it, like you said, is coming for our kids. They want our kids to be desensitized to this stuff, to think it's just a game.
Yeah.
So when
But it
our
still starts off with the parents.
but
See,
hear what
so
I'm saying, Axel. I'm not
the-
coming for the parents right now. I'm saying we as adults in this meeting here, I'm sharing this with the public who may tune in to say, be paying attention. This is not childlike fun. Your little kids to a pervert in this world, right? Your kids in front of the house playing this game, and here goes a pervert driving down the street who is a pedophile. You don't know that because it's Mr. Wilson down the street, but he sees your little daughter, 12 years old, 11, 10 years old, playing this game. He gets aroused. He's a pervert. They're playing an innocent game. It's innocent to them. They don't mean anything bad by it. And
yeah,
I'm like,
but
my
Miko, you
goodness.
got to go back to the parents on
Of
that.
course, but I'm just
Because
chiming in from the
let me
perspective
see
of the game
what
itself.
4-year-old can afford $6.99 and go to the store and buy it.
Axel, I'm not talking. This is not a parenting.
Right, I
thing.
know.
I'm sharing from
it is a parent thing because it starts off with them to raise their kids the way they want to raise them. If they want to raise their kids that way, that's how they're going to come after the kids, right? Because their parents allow it. Kids aren't going to do what their parents allow. You know,
Okay.
I tell my kids certain things that, hey, I won't buy that for them, right?
Sure.
Because it's not going to be in my house, right? I'm not going to invite that in my house, right? You know, so there's things that you have to put back on the parents on how they want to, but if they want to raise their kids buying that stuff.
So I'm speaking to parents who don't know better. I'm speaking to parents. See, we 3 of us come from 3 different angles, right? I'm speaking to parents who may be listening to this, right? Who may not know what twerk pong really means, the underlying meaning. They may think it's again, when I walked in the store, I'm in I see the shelves and I'm just looking for stuff, right? I'm browsing the store. And so I'm picking things, and I happen to say it was a game, and then I squinted my eyes and looked closer. I understood what it was right away because I understand. But if I didn't understand what twerking meant, I might have just looked at it and thought, oh, it's a game. Okay. That's what I'm coming from, that perspective, just trying to inform people. That
Right.
and I mean,
because people who didn't grow up in that ethnicity aren't going to understand that.
it has no, I beg to differ. It has nothing to do with ethnicity.
Okay, I know,
brother.
because I went to an
but I'm-
all-white school. I went from a minority school, right, to an all-white school. They didn't understand that if I had a fade and I put a part in my head, right, I'm not a gangster. It was just a hairstyle. Well, we used to wear a part, right?
Axel, you're getting too deep with it. We
No,
talking about twerk
no, it's not too
pong.
deep.
I'm not talking about gangbanging.
Hold on, let me explain.
haircut.
I wish I could mute you. I wish I could mute you because I'm mutiny on the back. I want to
Get
mute
him.
you like mute.
Get him, Axel.
Because you want to do a lot of talking, right? But no one to listen either. So the thing is,
okay,
you
go
know,
ahead.
you gotta
Because you
understand
straying
that
from the
there's gonna be
subject.
some
Go
things
ahead.
that you may not understand that white people do or the other people do, right?
Mhm.
And they're gonna look like, yeah, we eat steak and potatoes. We don't put whatever on there, right? We don't put
Right.
you know, hot sauce on everything, right? We don't put hot sauce on our chicken, whatever, what ethnicity, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not gonna understand it, right? So same thing. If a white parent sees that grew up in our generation, they're not gonna be like, oh, well, twerking, I'm just wrong, right?
Yeah.
They're not gonna look at it the way you look at it. You're gonna look at it to the
I
nth
agree.
degree. They're gonna look at it like, oh, it's just a game, right? You're gonna look like, man, it's gonna damage the kids and all that stuff because you know where that comes from. They don't.
Mm.
Someone that doesn't understand that won't, right? So I look at it from the perspective of understanding size.
No,
Right.
now to piggyback on that, right? Let's say you got the Caucasian guy that doesn't know what twerk is. He gets the game, he brings it home. The kids don't know what twerk is. Are you saying due to the fact that nobody knows what it means, it's not harmful? Or
I didn't say that.
Oh.
When they find out, right? When they find out and they start going like this, like, hey, hold on, that ain't right. I don't want my daughter doing that. But I'm just saying from the perspective that
I get you.
they
I
won't
get you.
understand.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They just don't understand. Now it's good to put that warning out there, right?
Right.
And that could be something accidental, right?
Right.
But there's something that's incidental too. Like, if you know what it is, you know what it is.
No, but you know what though? I think part of it is the fact that, it's kind of like subliminal, right? Like they
Right.
know some folks that doesn't know what twerk is.
Right. And then
But
there's
we
gonna be
want to slip it in.
Right,
Slip
because
it in.
so I'm gonna ask the question. I didn't tell you all.
Curiosity.
Hold on. What city
kills
what
the
city
cat,
is
right?
that Marshall? What city
Right.
is that story in that Marshall's I took that picture in? Could you tell me what city is that in?
It's gonna be in the surrounding place of Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Okay, you say Atlanta. Axel, what city was that Marshall's located in?
It's probably around somewhere around Atlanta.
Come on, brother. Take a guess. Take a good guess.
Georgia.
Okay. See, he
No,
really
because
don't
I
wanna
know what
answer
you're
my
getting at, right?
Okay, so go ahead, answer the question.
I said it somewhere around Atlanta.
I said what city, not what state, not what metropolitan area.
Atlanta is a city.
What
my
city?
brother.
Okay, so you said Atlanta.
They said
No.
Atlanta.
That
Right.
is in Griffin, Georgia, right?
Which
Griffin.
is
Tell me about Griffin if you haven't lived here. No, but Griffin is not like the city of Atlanta. I'll tell you why. Griffin is predominantly a rural town, right? It's a small town on the southern tip of metropolitan Atlanta.
Mhm.
So there's a stereotype about Griffin. People think it's just all country farms, and that's not true. Griffin has changed a lot over the last 20 years. I'm saying that to say the people who shop at this Marshall's, if you spend time and you just sit out that door for half an hour and just watch, you're going to see all colors of people come through there. You're going to see all ages come through that door, right? And if you were to really survey them what their economic level is, you're going to find some, people coming through there making six figures, and you're going to find some people, near poverty or in poverty. Come to the same Marshall.
But what you getting at with that? What you getting at?
So
with
what am I getting at is that
Yeah.
this is a Marshall's that's targeting the general audience, and it's not about, they put this out there for people from this ethnicity. No, they put it out there for whoever is going to buy it. That's what I see.
Right.
Whoever's
Yeah.
going to buy it. So I guess
That's
what I'm saying.
Stores do.
Sure, but I'm saying this to say it's targeted at kids.
It's targeted at anyone that's gonna buy it.
If it wasn't targeted at kids, why would you have to say not for children under 3?
Can someone 7 and under buy it?
If they have the money, anybody in that store could come in there and buy it if they have $7 plus tax.
I'm talking about
Anybody.
a kid who don't know anything, right? Kids are going to look at more toys. Who's going to buy it are going to be adults. Mostly adults are going to buy that. That's what I'm
Really?
getting.
Really?
What 3-year-old?
Okay.
What 4-year-olds?
No, that's true.
But
I won't say 4.
If it says 3 and under, what 5-year-old kid's going to go say, "Hey, Dad, I want that"?
No, but a 12-year-old, an 11-year-old.
Okay, but right.
A 10-year-old.
Exactly, because they're watching YouTube, they're seeing that stuff, but no kid 5-year-old is going to buy it. So that put that back on the parents. They're going to understand
a
what that
5-year-old may ask for it though, because look at it, it's attractive, it's colorful.
is. And then the parents should say,
But here's the
no.
thing.
Right.
Or unless the parent doesn't know what twerk means.
That's what I'm getting at. That's my angle, is for people who are naive.
When they finally read the instructions on what to do, like, okay, hands on your knees.
No, but that's not what the game. Listen, what I shared was the front and the back of the
go
box.
to this video tutorial and then do this. They're gonna be like,
But
Hands
there,
on your knees.
listen, if
Hands on your
you
knees.
look at it, it doesn't say any of that. It don't give any links.
Plus, you didn't break out the instructions on the inside. The
Harvey,
inside
Working skills. What now? So whoa. Let's read it because here's the thing. This is for someone who's familiar with twerking, because it says you want to put your twerking skills to the test. So you already got to have twerking skills in order to put it to the test. So this is for
it could be someone who knows what it is, or someone who's going to be curious, like twerking. What is twerking, right?
Yo, but why does the girl look like she's having too much fun?
It look like the guy is having too much fun. I'm asking why
the guy shouldn't be twerking anyway, because it's not supposed to be.
Listen, hey, we live in America, buddy. And I would say we live in Atlanta, but
hey, I don't care where we live.
That's another episode. No,
Yeah,
come on.
Brother shouldn't be twerking.
I don't know about that. Axel.
We live in metropolitan Atlanta.
I know about that. I'm an old school.
Come on, I know. Right? I'm not talking about old or new school.
Axel, that's not what I heard.
What is metropolitan? Come on, get with me, because we got to wrap this up for sake of time. What is metropolitan known across the nation now for? Let's be honest. What is one of the stereotypes about metropolitan Atlanta? I know people may be sensitive, but I'm gonna tread lightly. No, I'm gonna say it.
What are they known for?
Metropolitan Atlanta statistically does have a higher homosexual population than most cities in America.
Right.
Well. I'm gonna specifically tell you what it is. A high Black gay population. Ooh. See, so now we're gonna get under the skin, right? A high Black gay population, right? So
yeah, I see you. I'm leaning where Diaz is. But it's not just African Americans.
But I'm saying that
have a high incidence.
It's high.
Yes, it's high amongst all ethnicities, brother. In
it is, but it's high Black. It's high Black.
Okay, but that's because Atlanta has been known as a chocolate city for 50, 60 years.
Well, it is.
That's the reason why.
Not just because it's known for that, but it's known because our Black population of men are doing that.
Okay, now we're gonna get into another episode, because here's the reality: the numbers don't
support words, brother. You said
the reason I said stereotype.
I ain't gonna put it back on me. But you brought the can of worms. You said that.
I said stereotype, right? I said stereotype. The stereotype. The numbers don't support the stereotype. No, because I'm just telling you, the numbers don't support the stereotype, right? The numbers don't support. I'm talking about if you look at the Census Bureau, the census from 2020, don't support the stereotype of, and we could talk about this in another episode if you want. If you ask the general population, let's say when it gets warm outside, you go to a shopping mall in different areas of Metro Atlanta, north, south, east, and west, right? And you ask this question, because it was asked. I watched a YouTube video in metropolitan Atlanta.
Episode or what?
Yeah, but I'm gonna leave it at this. They asked this question. What percentage of the male population in Atlanta do you think is homosexual?
See, so now you bring up another episode, and then I'm going to want to answer it, and I'm going to want to keep this conversation going.
Okay, so then let's do this.
Then you're going to cut me off and say, "Hey,
no, I don't want to cut you off." Here's the reason why I brought it up. We talking about the twerk pong game, and somebody said the brother shouldn't be twerking at all.
You're right. I said
says
that.
Who? Though?
I don't plead the fifth.
Would you plead the
man law.
Right.
Hey, I like Mike.
You
Ditka.
say it. Axel.
Hey, Mike Ditka said man law. You don't drink a drink like this, right? Brothers should not do that.
I'm telling you,
don't drink beer with a straw, right? There's certain man laws, right? That's why I like Mike Ditka. You know what I'm saying? He had man laws, right?
The fact is, Diaz, I think Diaz, you understand what I'm saying. The fact is, there are lots of men in Metro Atlanta that are twerking. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not saying I agree.
It's just all bad. It ain't
fine.
Good,
but I'm not saying I agree with it. Or
what was it? Feminine? No, and the other word that's used in the King James, effeminate, whatever. That's homosexual behavior, right?
So it's not. We're not going to see the normal
A normal
athlete
brother
person.
shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
If you represent Christ,
I feel you. on
Okay,
that.
I
I'm
feel
gonna
you.
edit this part out because now you're gonna run off our audience when you say normal.
hey, you know what? That's what we're here
What's-
for. You
No, but what's
edit it.
what's-
I'm gonna still say it.
okay?
in every episode then,
Okay, well then I'm
because
not gonna edit it.
Life,
So what is
life
normal?
life, and there's
How do you
different
define
opinions.
normal? How do you define normal?
Okay, a man should be doing manly things, right?
Like what?
Not twerking.
What is twerking? What I mean, what's
No, okay.
not
Are you playing a twerking advocate or are you playing a man advocate?
No, I'm asking the question.
Okay, I told you twerking. You know what twerking is. Ain't no
I know
beating
it is.
around
It's
the
a
bush.
dance.
No,
It's a
ain't
style of
and it's not
dancing.
just a dance. It's a dance that when I grew up, women were doing it. You
Okay.
shake your body, your bottom a certain way, then a man shouldn't be doing that, right? You
Right.
know,
So Axel can
No.
say he doesn't agree with it. Miko can, even if I said I don't agree with it, and Diaz can say it. The fact remains there are many men who are doing it is the point. And so that's why they put it on the box. If no men were twerking, it wouldn't be on that box. That's my
we're
point.
not debating that.
No, well, so that's why I said what I said. Maybe I took the tourist route. I took the scenic route. to
took-
get
Nah,
there.
you
see,
see
you
it
have
now
these
again,
like I
man.
tell my wife.
The point
You have
is, the
these mental
box is,
conversations, right? I tell my wife, you have mental conversations that you had to let me in, and you start talking about this conversation you have in your head, and then we finally get to it. So you had a mental conversation that you didn't let us in. So you took the tourist route, right? The tourist route is the mental conversation you had in your head. I'm saying that, a Christian man wouldn't be doing that. So I'm saying a Christian man
probably won't create the game. So
Exactly, you're right.
So right. So the stamp.
You're right.
I
You're
only
totally correct.
So to wrap it up, I'll let you all get your last talk point. I don't want to talk over you. I'm gonna wrap it up by saying I saw the game. I know it's real, but I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ludicrous. And that's why I had to ask myself, is this real? So you all can finish up.
All I say is it's real out there. And for me, as a parent, I got to make sure I'm checked in all the time. You know what I mean? Taking my kid to Marshall's, right? And see that. Now,
Why don't we just let's boycott Marshalls? Let's start a boycott.
I ain't gonna say that,
You
man. They
wanna
got
be
some
cancel
polos. They got some polos on a discount right there. But I'm just saying, just
Yeah,
as a
you can't be
parent,
cancel culture, man. That's,
you gotta be on alert.
Yeah. The thing is how you raise your kids. And that's where I'm coming at, right? If you raise your kids with common sense, they're going to be exposed to that. You can't shelter them because when they get out of your house, they're going to see that, right? So the thing is, you prepare them, like, okay, hey, you prepare them, okay, hey, how a Christian woman's supposed to be like, right? It's not going to be with the norm. It's not going to be, the norm is you act like the world can act anyway. There's no rules, right? But to someone that's a follower of Jesus, there's going to be some rules. Those are boundaries in your life, right? Those are ancient boundary stones that God gave us on how we should live. Don't move those stones, right?
Right.
Meaning, okay, hey, you have to live with prudence and discretion. You can't say all the things you want to say. You can't dress the way you want to dress. The Bible says dress with propriety for women, right? Propriety means that you belong to Jesus. You don't walk around with certain clothes, right? I'm not going to knock people who do that, right? But if you want to be respected a certain way, you're going to dress a certain way. You know what I mean? You're going to act a certain way, things like that. So with games like that, I don't think that game will be in my house, but then I can still be a hypocrite because I watch movies that would have that stuff in my house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's why I can't be all hardcore about it, right? Because you're gonna have movies that you see like, man, I wish it wasn't in there, man.
Yeah, there's some twerking going on, right?
Or else you might listen to a song that you had back in the day, right? Like Boys in the Hood, right? Boys in the Hood, always hard. And then they're like, man, I forgot they had some bad words in there, right?
Right.
But you still, vibing to the beat or something like that, right?
Right.
But it's really just, how you train your kids, what you want your kids exposed to, or they're going to be exposed to anyways, because I know my son is in elementary school. I said, try to blank all the cuss words, like, well, we hear it in school. Now I'm like, doesn't matter. I don't want you hearing in my home, you know. But sometimes you
Right.
can't stop what's playing on TV, and they say it right,
Right.
you know. And you know, so it's just really how you raise your kids, and you know, try to build deep convictions in them, because you can't take them out the world.
Right.
You know, they're going to be in this world, but they just won't be of this world. They won't dress like this world. Hopefully, they won't act like this world. If a woman's a woman, you know, they're gonna date a man, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if my boy's a boy and he becomes a man, he's going to marry a woman, right?
Right.
That's what a man and a woman does, right? In the eyes of God. The man and the woman are going to come together, leave their parents, and become one flesh, right? And that's how God ordained it. And it's not my rules, it's God's rules. And that's what I'm going to go by, because that's who I follow. But I can't be, you know, dogmatic about a lot of things because I'm sinful, right?
Right.
So the only thing I could do is look at people with a lot of grace, because, you know, God has a lot of grace with me. I may not agree with all those things, you know, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do those things either, right?
Right.
But I'm not going to be dogmatic and judge the wrong way, because I still have to deal with my own sinful nature, which
Right.
is pride and things like that, right? So yeah, twerking should not be there, you know, but if it's there, you know, you just gotta teach my kids that, you know, hey, daddy
Twerking good.
Yeah, you ain't
Twerking ain't good.
And on that note, we're gonna call it an episode.
Ooh.
Thank you so much for tuning in
Hey,
to
bless you.
Three Mad Brothers. I'm Miko Me,
Axel, and probably not his name.
He is.
and you have just watched season 1, episode 1 of Three Mad Brothers, brought to you by Fade Media. Until next time. Oh, coming up, episode 2, we're going to talk about how do you behave righteously in a worldly working environment. So stay tuned for the next episode. Again, episode 2, we're going to talk about how do you behave or act in a spiritual righteous manner in a worldly working environment. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Till the next episode.